So from the video, I would say that the way that having a bad hire can affect a company, from personal experience, I feel like it just brings down morale of the entire like workplace, because when there is a bad hire, like for example, someone who like isn't performing the way that other employees are expected to, and there's no like repercussions for that, it kind of makes other employees, like I know I've been in the situation where you're like, why are we having to work twice as hard and they're not doing anything, and like not having any repercussions for it. Or even another example would be like hiring a bad manager that like doesn't know how to manage people, or just kind of comes in and like doesn't respect like the employees, like that then makes the employees not want to be there any longer, and it makes them feel like uncomfortable working. And if they had a good teamwork environment and good morale before the new manager came in, because the manager like isn't a good fit for that store or that place, it can really make the turnover rate high and make people want to leave even if it was a job that they absolutely loved before. And turnover rate, definitely, for the biggest thing when you see a lot of turnover, is it makes everyone else want to leave. Like I know that's kind of like saying the same thing, but once you see people starting to leave, then I feel like it makes you be like, well, why is everyone leaving, and like should I leave too? And it kind of makes everyone in a negative mindset, because they're like, well, everyone's leaving, no, everyone hates it here. And it just doesn't make people motivated to make a change, because they know that people are always leaving. And I also think it's wasting time on the manager's part or whoever's hiring, because you're constantly training people and then not getting anywhere if people are constantly leaving. So you're not really able to hold like constant standards with your company, because every time you hire and train someone and try to have standards with, say, like that new group, you lose them and have to hire another group. And then people that may have been there long are kind of like confused at what's going on. And there's just no, I feel like there's just no consistency when there's a high turnover. I do, some of the points he made, think that what he said about having 3 interviews and maybe having more than one person on the interview is definitely a good thing. I used to work for Old Navy and I used to interview, and we actually would do 3 series of interviews, and it definitely worked. So the first interview would be a group interview. So we would actually bring in like 5 people at once, and it was different, but you got to see like it was basically very casual, like how he mentions in the interview too. Like it was more just seeing how they interact in a group, and like it was Old Navy, so they're going to be dealing with customers and people 24/7. So it kind of like threw them off, but we would let them know when we phoned them that it would be a group interview. But because it had to be in a group, you really saw like what kind of people they were, who stands out in that group, who's quiet in the group, who's willing to talk first, who's shy, etc., etc. And then in regards to that, then we would take them and interview them next time if they passed the group interview. And then after they passed the second interview, the third interview, they interview with the general manager. So that's like 3 different opinions that really make sure that you get a good candidate. I mean, of course, you're going to get those people that just interview really well and then get the job and they don't perform well, but definitely having those things in place where it's not just you interviewing them. Because there's even been times when, like, say I would interview someone and wasn't sure, like I'd be like, they seem like a really good candidate, or honestly I thought they weren't a good candidate, but I was like, I don't want to be the like be the only judge. Like maybe I'm judging because, again, how he says in the video, how you can judge based off your own like just prejudgment or prejudice or whatever. Like I actually, he mentioned someone being late, and I think that was why I didn't think the person should get hired, because they were like 20 minutes late because they said they forgot what time it was, blah blah blah. And I was like, to me personally, I was just like, well, they were late, so like they obviously don't want the job. And like that was my error for thinking that, but I ended up passing them anyway, because I felt like in the interview they were really good and we hired them, and they actually did turn out to be a really good worker. So definitely like pushing them to like another interview really helps you make sure that you're not making your own assumptions and like getting, not giving someone a chance because you decided on like one thing that they shouldn't. Like I'm guilty of that, and I feel like a lot of managers are, especially when you're a manager. You're like, I want things done X, Y, and Z. And I just definitely think making sure that you're bringing in good candidates, like it helps the store, because they also know that people you're bringing in have been through a lengthy process and know the standards of the store and are coming in knowing what they want to do. I've actually never, I think I had a job once actually where I wasn't hired by the manager, and it was weird because then like when you're working, it's like the man, you don't really know like the top person, like the general manager, and they're like, oh hey, like I haven't met you yet, and you're like, but it's your store. Like, so I really did also like his point that he said that managers should be thoroughly involved in it. That's how it was at Old Navy. Like I mentioned, like I was a business and training manager, And then we had like a visual manager just sit in on the second interview, and then the general manager interviewed them, which I think is also good for the employee because then they've already met three managers before they even start. So they kind of like, they're not coming in like, who are you? Like, they kind of get to know what they're getting into as well and decide if it's right for them by meeting three people. So those are my thoughts on it.